to college, I remember thinking, I need to find a few other people who are trying to live this faith, right? And I was really grateful. There was an upperclassman, she's just a couple grades ahead of me, who lived upstairs from me in the dorms. And she said, hey, you're trying to live this Christian thing. I'm trying to live this Christian thing. Do you want to come up to my room? I'll have breakfast every morning, or once a week, we picked a day. And she worked at the breadsmith, so it was fresh baked bread from her job. And we would talk about what we were struggling with, and we would pray for each other, and then we'd go off to school. She did that for a whole year with me before she graduated, and that really helped me to learn how to listen, learn how to seek him. And in the course of that couple of years, that year and beyond, I started realizing that my whole life I knew here that God loved me, but I didn't really know here. And this is the longest 12 inches in the world, right? To get from our head down into our heart. And I remember with her help and the help of some of my other classmates and being on a retreat, having this experience of like, God is really real and really loves us. And when you know that, it changes everything. And so I was like, well, this is amazing. I want to help somebody else have this and know this. And so I started at our Catholic Campus Ministry Center to be there regularly and to lead a small group. We looked at the Sunday readings for the next week, and I had a lot of help being formed as a leader to do that from my friend upstairs, Gretchen was her name, and from others. And I was just like, okay, Lord, you're real. I remember what it was like to not have that. How do I help somebody else have that? So I remember one Lent at Mass, there was a girl I had never seen before. And I know you all, if somebody new comes to your Mass, you recognize them, right? Because you're a small community. You know when somebody's new. We were the same. I knew that this was a new girl. And so afterwards, I introduced myself. I said, welcome, I'm so glad that you're here, and just struck up a conversation. And in the midst of that conversation, we were like, oh, well, what are you doing for Lent? What are you doing for Lent? And she said, well, I saw on campus somebody with ashes this morning, and I realized it was Lent, and I haven't gone to Mass since I came to college. And I thought for Lent, I would come to Mass again, right? And that was where she was at. And I said, that's great. Notice there is no judgment of the fact that, for more than half a year now, she's not been going to Mass. It's just, that's great, I'm so glad that you're here. Some of us meet, there's a free supper, right? Some of us meet after that supper just to talk and to pray and to look at what the readings are going to be. Would you be interested in coming to that? At first she was like, I don't know. And I said, well, why don't you just come for dinner? So she came for dinner. And at the dinner, she met some of the people who were going to stay for that group that I was leading. And one of them was a boy. God will not, he will use you where you are, right? She ended up marrying that boy. So she decided after meeting us that we weren't too weird. And so she came to this little group. And in the midst of this little group, we did the same kinds of things. Like, how are you right now? And how's life going for you? And what would you like prayer for? And we'd look at the readings, and then we'd pray for each other, and then, we'd have some cookies and go home, and that's all it was. By the end of that Lent, she decided, with the help of the group, she wanted to go to the Sacrament of Reconciliation for the first time since her confirmation program. And she started coming back to Mass regularly. Another year or two later, and she was a leader of a group like that. And like I said, she ended up falling in love with and marrying that young man from that small group, right? So I start with these stories because sometimes I think, especially when we're in a small, tight-knit community, we think there's not a whole lot we could do to change the world or to help people get to know God. And I think we're wrong when we think that. Because if we make ourselves available to God and we say, Lord, use us, help me to have my eyes open to see what you're doing, he brings the opportunity. And it's in that community, walking together, loving each other, risking being a little vulnerable with each other, that he really helps us to encounter him and help each other fall in love with him and grow as his disciples.